there, and I forgot to turn up my volume again. So here we go. Hello, everyone. So glad to see you. I'm glad I remembered that a little earlier this time than last week. We are going to have some fun with paper and ink today, just like we do every Thursday. And I am glad to see a whole bunch of you out there on the chat. If you are new here, of course, do leave a little comment, say hello, tell us where you're from. We'd love to know. Let's see. Paula says that it's cold in England. It's cold here too in Nebraska. We're getting into that time of the year where we're going to have hard freezes and start thinking about snow. I saw in my Facebook memories feed a couple of days ago, I think it was about 3 years ago, we had already had a snowstorm here in Nebraska. So it can happen. It truly can. All right, guys, let's get to some quick announcements. Actually, no changes from last week because we knew what we were going to be working on in February. So soon, we're going to do glitter and shine. I'm working on some great projects. You're going to love them. Some of them are holiday, some of them are not, but there will be lots of glitter and shine and shimmer and all sorts of beautiful metallic-y kinds of things. I was playing around with some of those metallic waxes the other day, and they are so cool. I cannot wait to share some ideas with you guys. Anyway, if you are inspired by anything that you see here today or anytime on my channel, I would love to know about it. And the best way to find out about it is when you share it on Instagram. Be sure to tag me at Nicole Creates. I would love to see what you're up to and how this channel is inspiring you. So thank you to everyone who's already doing that. And I've seen some of your projects out there. They're really fantastic. And Cece, I saw your projects from last week. So cool. I was so really awestruck that you created last week's project with materials all your own. They were not the stamp set or anything that I used. It was stuff that she had on hand, and it was fantastic. So thank you so much for sharing that. I think you did an awesome job. Anyway, I truly appreciate when you guys support me through a few methods. One is when you use your my affiliate links down below to shop. When you do that, I might receive a small commission at no additional cost to you guys. It's an easy way to show your support to all the crafters that you follow out here on YouTube. You can also support me directly by putting a tip in the tip jar. There's a link down below. You can send me a couple bucks via PayPal, and that covers a cup of coffee to keep me going to creating all of the stuff that I create out here for you guys on a weekly basis. Of course, you can always just give me a thumbs up for today's video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Those are great ways to support me too. So thank you. Speaking of the tip jar, we had a couple tippers last week, so thank you to Erin and Trisha for dropping a few bucks in the tip jar. I totally appreciate it. It is always a surprise when I get a little tip in the tip jar, and it is completely humbling, I guess, to know that you guys love what I do so much that you want to throw a couple bucks my way. So I totally appreciate it. Thank you so much, you two. All right, let's talk about this week's project. So we're still working with Concord and Knight's mail drop set. And as you know, this is an interactive set. Look, Paula, I haven't lost it yet. You won't lose it either, I promise. I hope you broke into the stamp set. And here is today's project. It's so cute. It looks totally innocuous, like it's not an interactive card, but look, it says pull here. So we're going to open up our little envelope, and there's a little note inside. It says, Happy Mail. It's totally meta, right? Because it's like a card in a card. Anyway, so it's cute little interactive. This is just showing you that interactive does not need to be difficult or time consuming. I'm just adding in this cute little envelope, and it tucks right behind the snail, so that'll it'll stay closed, right? But we've got the little pull here, so it's very easy to understand. Oh, maybe I'm supposed to do something with that. It's so cute. Anyway, so we're going to do some direct to ink. We're going to do some Copic coloring, easy Copic coloring, because it's a card. We want it to get done fairly reasonable time. You don't want to be spending hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. So I like to do quick Copic coloring for my cards. Let's see, there's some comments going on here. Let's see, Sue said she did some ink smooshing of some tags. That's awesome. Can't wait to see your results. So I'm excited to share them. Yeah, post them on Facebook too, if you're not on Instagram. Paula has not lost her die yet because she hasn't even opened it yet. Open that stamp set. And Cece thinks today's project is cute. If you love today's project, I printed out all of these that I've done so far. So guys, you will want to go out to my blog about an hour after we're done here. So 6 o'clock US Central Time, the blog post will go live for today's project. And you can pick up your very own PDF. It's got all sorts of nice full color pictures. It's got, oops, sorry, this is upside down. It's got all of your supplies. It's got step-by-step instructions. I've been doing this for the past couple of months, so there's a whole pile of them out there waiting for you. And I'm actually going to go back and do these for previous projects, so that is going to continue expanding. So grab your free PDF, and then you'll have a project that you can do anytime. And really, guys, I truly mean this. The reason why I do these projects live with you is not only to inspire you, but to also give you ideas for cards to create. Please case my cards, copy and selectively edit, or copy them exactly, follow the instructions, do the project, and then share your results. Of course, just make sure that you're giving me credit. So just tag me at Nicole Creates and say, hey, I learned this watching Nicole's YouTube. Come join us. That would be really awesome. Anyway, but yeah, totally copy. Okay. And even if you're going to be sending them to someone, of course, send your cards out to people. Don't use it to make a profit. But you're totally free to share my cards for your personal use. Absolutely. All right, popping down the hands here. Today's card, actually, I think is going to come together pretty quickly. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. I know you guys appreciate the closer view. So let's talk a little bit about what we've got going on here. We've got this really cool background, very easy to do. I did a technique on this a couple of weeks ago. This is a part of the direct to paper technique. So you'll want to check that out for more details, to see other ways that you can use ink direct to paper. There's some ink spatter on here. There's some simple Copic coloring and some shading. And then we're going to pop this all together. So cute. All right. I need to grab one other thing I totally forgot about. Was my ink spray as I was looking at the card. Okay, so the great thing about using the PDFs too is it's got all of the supplies listed below, so you can just grab all your supplies or see what you want to swap out. Totally easy. Okay, so I've got a whole pile of Copics, and we'll talk about these in a minute. You will actually be able to use half of these if you want. All right, so we'll talk about this in a minute, but let's get the background done first. So I've got a piece here of white accent opaque cardstock. It's my favorite cardstock because it is American made, and I can get it on Amazon for like a third of the price of Nina Solar White, and I think it's more white. When I put this up against Nina Solar White looks yellow. So I really like this paper. It takes ink very well, and like I said, it's really a good value. So this is 80 pound. I use 100 pound cardstock for my card bases instead of 110 pound. 110 pound always seems to be like just a hair too heavy, but 100 pound and 80 pound is too light. So 100 pound is perfect. It is the Goldilocks of card bases as far as I'm concerned. So that's what I use, 80 pound and 100 pound accent opaque. Got those linked down below for you. Okay, so what I'm going to do with my ink here, I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black. And the only reason I'm using this particular one is because I'm going to use it for stamping later. So may as well just use one ink, right? Okay, so I'm going to pop it right on my card base, and I'm going to twist it around. And when I do that, look, I got a circle. Okay, I have an empty space in the center. I'm not concerned about that because everything is going to cover that. If I wanted to, I could fill it in, but I've got a pretty nice circle here. If I like to get a little bit more circular, I can now just swipe a little bit to try and get more of a circular shape. All right, this, I re-inked this not too long ago, so it is super juicy and it's soaked right into the paper, which is amazing. It looks gorgeous. As you can see here, this one is a little bit more wispy on the edges here, and that was because that was before I inked this up with my re-inker. So when it's super saturated, this is kind of more of the look you're going to get. When it's a little more on the dry side, you might get it to be a little bit more wispy. Either way, it's going to look fantastic. So I'm just going to now let this dry a little bit. I'm going to take some black soot oxide spray first and do some spatter. Okay, so sometimes I will put a brush in here and do the splatter, but today I'm just going to use the wand that's inside. So I dip it in here. I'm going to just dab it off a little bit and then tap on the end here. And of course, you're not going to see any in here because it's, well, black. But it gets me the splatter around the other edges that I really wanted to. So yeah, so actually I do kind of like the lighter black circle myself. We'll let this dry a little bit and see what we think. We can always do another one, right? Because we haven't put anything together. All right, so I'm going to set this aside. And this is going to dry a little bit too, so we'll see what it looks like as well. All right, let's do some stamping. So I need a few things here from our stamp set. I'm going to need the 2 envelopes and 2 of the flower thingies and the fold-up envelope, as well as Mr. Snail here. And then this little happy is just a piece that I cut on its own. I didn't use the die or anything to cut it because I wanted to make sure that it slipped in and out of here pretty easily. So really this just ends up being a scant inch by 1 3/8 into the 1/8. Okay, so that's what we need to stamp. Let's do that. All right, so I need this guy, and this guy, and this one, and the little snail. Give those a little bit of room. The snail does not have a die, so we're gonna have to fussy cut him. He's little though. Not too big of a deal. All right, so again, I'm going to use my Memento because we're going to use Copic markers, and water-based ink or hybrid ink is what you want to use when you're coloring with Copics. Anything that is alcohol or solvent-based or oil-based is going to bleed when you use your Copics. So you just want to remember, it's kind of like, you know, oil and water. You always want to use something that's going to repel. If you use a like substance, it's going to bleed. All right. Oh, we need another one of those. Done with that. I wanted to, so I don't know if it is a defect of my stamp, but it doesn't have the bottom line. It's a little, let me show you here. See, it only comes across like that. I think it's a defect in my stamp. I've been limping along with it. Well, not limping along. It's been working just fine, but you just have to keep in mind that it doesn't have that bottom bit. And the reason why I think that it's a defect is because when I look at the line art here, see the line goes all the way across. So I'm assuming that that's a defect in my particular stamp. Okay, so we needed, I want to grab, okay, that's going to fit on there, good. So we needed 2 sets of flowers. There we go. All right, so that is almost all of the stamping. We'll do our last bit of stamping right now too. So I've got my little teeny tiny piece of pink, just a little scrap. And we're going to put a little Happy Mail on there. I'm pretty sure I didn't use my Misty for this last time. But that'll work. Don't ask me why I didn't just put that in the corner. I have no idea. That's just what I chose to do. Technically, that was a risky move because if I needed to restamp that, that would have been not so good. All right, and then I've got the little heart. And I was just kind of going for this kind of monochromatic black thing, like as if you had typed it out on a typewriter. So I just put a few little whimsical black hearts on there. All right. So that's actually all of our stamping. I like it when you can kind of work through and do things. Oh, that isn't all of our stamping. Stand by. But I do like it when you can kind of work through things and not have to split up and do all sorts of pieces and parts as you go. But what I am going to do is die cut this one right now so we can stamp it. I like to die cut this first so you can see the edges on it. Otherwise, it's really hard to get the get those little lines all lined up on there. So this is the fold up envelope. And we'll come back to our cutting everything else out later. Okay, so we need those. Set that aside. So now I've got my little envelope. It looks like a little airplane right now, but I can fold those lines a little bit. It didn't score as well as I wanted it to. So did you know you can use your bone folder? It's got a pointy end, just your ruler and a bone folder. To just kind of burnish a little line there. And that helps me to get my fold. In case your folds didn't line up quite right. Or they didn't fold enough, I should say. Okay, so there we go. I've got my folds done. And then these I need to actually freehand these. You can put them into your Misty if you want to. I find them just as easy to freehand them. All right, and if you mess them up a little bit, it doesn't really matter. Or you could omit them altogether. If you don't want that kind of look, you don't have to do it. Becca's taking a break from checking on colleges with her daughter to join us. Welcome, Becca. Hope you're having a good time in Phoenix. It's a good time of year to be out there. It's starting to cool down a little bit. All right, so we're just going around and doing all the little edges on the envelope. Okay, so this is the top, and I didn't stamp that one quite the way I wanted to. There we go. And the one thing that we do need to add to this is the interactive prompt for them to pull. So remember that this is going to be the envelope top and it's going to come up like this. So we want to make sure that the little arrow is going into the point. Okay, so that's what that should look like when it's all done. Now we are well and truly done with stamping. All right, and we have got some more die cutting to do in a little bit, but we're going to color first. Okay, so like I said, easy easy, easy, easy coloring. I can get you even closer. There we go. All right, set that aside. So these are the elements that we have to color, and I've got a whole pile of Copics here. So I've got some gray and my black. We'll get to the black shortly. And I've got greens and pinks and purples and my colorless blender. All right, so as far as the flowers are concerned, here's what you can do. You can either, so I've got Lilac VO4 and Lavender VO6. Okay, so VO4 is going to be lighter than VO6. Okay. If you want to get snazzy, you can do some shading. So what I would do is put some of the darker purple in the center. These flowers are so tiny though that I don't know if it's necessary or even worth it to do this. I mean, I could see the difference in my pictures. And of course in person I can see the difference. But it's just kind of up to you. Okay, so I'm doing all of the little petaled flowers here in the purple. And of course you can change these colors up. Like if you want to make these more fall, you could do that. So this is the lavender. Then I'm going to come back with lilac and just fill in the white and then back that into the lavender to get it to blend. So they're going to have like slightly lighter tips and slightly darker centers. So unless you're going to then add like color pencil for more detail on here, you're really not going to get anything more out of these guys. All right, so I'll do the same. And this is about as easy as it gets as far as Copic coloring is concerned. I mean, the only thing easier you could do is just color these solid, which would be totally cool. There's so little, it probably doesn't matter too much. I'm not super concerned about coloring outside the lines because we are going to fill that in with black. Almost missed that one there. Okay. So that would be the purple. The same thing with the pink flowers, the roses. I've got peach and blush. And we're going to do the same thing there. So blush is the lighter color, peach is the darker color. I can do a little bit of peach in the centers. And look at me, like totally not being neat, because you don't need to be. You're going to blend these out. So that's all for the peach. And then on the outside, I'll fill in the rest with blush. So again, if you don't have as many Copic markers, you can do these in a solid color. If you have a different brand, of course, you can use those. However you want to do it, guys. This should be easy coloring. To put a card together like this shouldn't always be like a labor of days. Or even hours for that matter. I mean, if you can put together a card in an hour, to send out. And if you've got like an intended recipient, that's like really nice, mindful time that you spent creating something for someone with that person in mind. So you've spent all that time like thinking about them, which is really nice. Okay, so I'm just going to fill in the hearts with the blush. Just some cute little light colored hearts. And then also, forgot about Mr. Snail here. So I'm going to take just the tiniest bit of our peach and just kind of put it on the edges there. You see that? And then go over everything with the blush. All right, so now we've got like this cute little pink snail. All right, and then for our leaves, I've got grass green and chartreuse. And okay, so what I did a little differently with these is this. So the chartreuse, I will do all these little leaves. And that's a lot of concentration because those are tiny. Again, like I said, we're going to go around it in black, so you don't have to be so precise. Even if you weren't going to go around it in black, it would be okay if you went outside lines on these. All right, and then I've got my chartreuse or my grass green. And that's going to go on these guys here. I'm going to leave just a little bit to add some more chartreuse to those. All right, so if you're afraid of alcohol marker coloring, but you've got them and you're like, well, I don't know where to start, this is where you start. This is really hard coloring because these little images are tiny. They are teeny tiny as far as the marker is concerned. So it's kind of a good reason to do the black background coloring. Take some of the pressure off. Now, mind you, the black needs to then be more precise. That is the one thing about that. All right, so that's that coloring. Now, I've got neutral gray 2 and 4 and my colorless blender. And that's what I'm going to use on our little snail, and then to give a little bit of detail to our little letters. Okay, so just a little bit of the darker neutral gray. So this is neutral gray 4. And the same thing, just a little bit there. Maybe a little bit underneath the flap. Right, and then the same thing with this one here. All right, and then I'm going to take the lighter gray, the neutral gray 2, and extend that just a little bit. And with our snail here, go over the neutral gray 4 so that it starts to break it up. Neutral gray 2's got a lot of colorless blender in it. Right, and see, look, I didn't even fill in the whole thing because I'm going to come back with my colorless blender now and go in the center to soften that whole thing up and even kind of work my way out to the edge. So what this is going to do is kind of model that a little bit, and it's going to give him a cute little shell look. Same thing with the little shading here. I'm going right over it, the whole thing, with my colorless blender. And it's not only going to help blend those two colors together, it's going to kind of shift and move it around, model it up a little bit, give it more of a shadow look versus a smeared look, if you will. All right, so you see how that's starting to break up, and look at how soft those look. They've got dimension to them now. So that's a good secret, is to just go over that all with your colorless blender, and that's really going to break up those colors and blend them together and give them a really nice soft look. All right, so that's my big secret. Neutral gray 2 and 4 plus the colorless blender. It's a great combination. All right, so can you believe it? That's it for the Copic coloring. Now what we need to do though is get some of this coloring done up inside here. So the flowers, and if we want to make sure that we don't go crazy with it, because we're going to die cut these, we don't want to accidentally get too far in there with our coloring. So I'll just snip it out. You've got two options. You can use a precision pen like this one here, or you can use your Copic Black. All right, if you're going to use your black Copic, use the brush side, or if you have a bullet nib, use the bullet nib side. Don't use the chisel. You'll never get it in there fine enough. But if you're going to use the brush tip, you have to be very light with it, like barely even touching the line, and go very slow. All right, it can be done. You almost like don't even want to come right up to the black line because it is going to blend out a little bit. So give it time to spread and do its thing. If you don't want to use the Copic marker, like I said, you can use a like a journaling pen, and that's going to have a finer tip on it that's easier to control. It's really hard to get around these leaves here. Sorry, my speaking is so broken up. I can barely color and talk at the same time. This is really like high concentration work. But I think the, now you don't even have to do this if you don't want to. I think the effort though is worth it. Because you really wouldn't be able to achieve this effect otherwise unless you did some like gouache painting on black cardstock. Cece says that I make this look effortless or so easy. It's practice, and you know what? It's also because this is easier coloring. You're not doing a whole bunch of big blends. It's not big spaces, so the blending happens actually kind of a little easier because it's just so tiny. I feel like I need to put reading glasses on to see this really. Yeah. And Trisha says, thanks for the colorless blender tip. Yeah, the colorless blender is like this secret weapon. I use it all the time to blend out edges and make really soft end blends. It's also great for adding texture and techniques, like you can do stippling and things like that with the colorless blender. And what it's going to do is just repel the ink that it goes over and leave little spots and speckles along the way. It's really a nice tool if you know how to use it. So with this, you just need to remember to color out far enough, and you can test it with the dye before you put your marker away to make sure that you've got the black out far enough. And I think, honestly, when I'm doing this off camera, I bring my face in a little closer, or I bring the piece up a little closer to my face, one of the two, just so you can really see the lines. Getting around these little green bits here is probably the hardest. So have you guys been catching the technique videos on Tuesdays? And if so, what's been your favorite technique lately? Let's see, what was this week's? It was something watercolor. I don't remember what it was. Last week's was ink smushing with contrasting colors, and then we did a project with it, so. Oh, the stained glass. Yes, thanks, Susan. I had a little snafu with my video editing, and it was supposed to be something else, but I ended up having to refilm something, so I totally forgot which technique it was. Yeah, the stained glass technique is really cool. We're going to actually do that. I have a really cool idea in mind for that for our November Sparkle and Shine series. So imagine the stained glass technique using like metallic watercolors. That would be cool. So if you have a technique that you'd like me to film for you guys, you can always ask me here. You can reply to any of my newsletters that I put out, my Saturday newsletter. So subscribe to my newsletter and then reply to one of those. Or you can leave a comment on the actual technique video that airs that week. You can say, hey, I'd love to see you do blah, blah, blah in a comment. And I'll see all of those, and then I'll grab them and put them into my list, my long, long list of techniques. All right, so there we go. There's one. Now we're going to do another one. I'm going to do the next one with the precision pen, and we'll see if it takes any less time. All right, so the thing that I like about doing the precision pen is I can get in these little spaces much quicker. And I don't feel like I need to like hold the pen in such a precious way that it's going to like bleed into whatever. Like this isn't going to bleed as quickly as the brush tip of the Copic. Oh, so last week, I'm just thinking of things as I'm coloring here because, you know, your mind just starts to wander a little bit. Last week, Nancy asked about having a live stream on Thanksgiving, and that's going to be a no. We're not going to have a live stream on Thanksgiving. And then the following Thursday is also going to be a week off. So the first Thursday in December, if I'm thinking about that correctly, or the last Thursday in November. That might be a 5th week anyway. Because I'm going to be busy that day. I don't say that often, but I've got a thing that day, so I can't do my live stream. I'll be sure to let you guys know more about that next week. But so with that said, and with December, you know, coming around and the holidays and everything, and I like to take some extra time off, I think what we're going to do is just extend the Sparkle and Shine series for an extra week or so. Or maybe just do some random projects. And then in January, we will pick up with a new stamp focus. Yeah, so you see how much quicker I can be with this. Like I can fill in these little spaces here much more quickly than I did with the Copic. Ah, okay, see, perfect, Nancy. So the 5th Thursday we won't air either. Because Thanksgiving is the 4th Thursday, I believe. I said that and I was like, Thanksgiving is the 4th Thursday of the month. It is. It always is. Yeah, and I figure, well, Susan loves Sparkle. Everyone loves Sparkle. So we can spend a little bit more time with that. Okay, so another option here with these guys is that if you didn't want to try to go in between all of them, is that you could just leave it as like a more of a green space. You don't have to color in all of the area in between each of the leaves. Or you could use a smaller precision pen. The pen that I'm using is from American Crafts. This is their precision pen, which is why I keep calling it that. I mean, generically, it's a journaling pen. But the precision pen set comes with like 5, I think, pens in it. This is the 0.05. I think there's a 0.08, and then there's 2.3s and a 0.1. The 0.3 is the most frequently used for actual journaling, so that's why they give you 2 of them. Well, I'm glad this coloring is almost over because my eyes are about to cross. I forgot Paula is going to be on the... Paula, you're taking the QE too, yes? Across the pond? That is so cool. That's something that I think I would enjoy doing. I don't know what you do the whole time you're on the ocean in between continents, but it sounds like fun. The QM2, excuse me. All right, so there we go. So really not much difference. This one has like a little bit more texture to it because of the ink that you use for the journaling pens versus this being nice and smooth. All right, so those and those, we already did this. That guy's gonna get fussy cut. Okay, So on this one, there are 1, 2, 3 little points. And those 3 little points are the 3 groupings of little green fronds. All right. Anne says you craft while you're on the Queen Mary 2. I totally agree. Like, are you, Paula, are you packing a little craft stash to take with you? I can just rip this off. So I will tell you, Paula, my husband and I went to New York City for Christmas a few years ago, and it was lovely. We left 2 days before New Year's, I think it was. It's just really busy. So you just have to be prepared for lots of people, lots of lines. Getting into some of the sites, like going to see the Statue of Liberty and things like that, you'll want to see about getting tickets ahead of time if you can. The 9/11 Memorial, see if you can get tickets ahead of time. Because otherwise, if you try to get tickets day of, you will be waiting in line forever and you may not get there. Ask me how I know. Oh, that would be a wonderful idea. So Paula thinks that what she might take with her is some pre-printed images or stamped images and practice her watercoloring with the pencils and the brush markers. I think that's a great idea, especially the pencils, because the brush markers, you just don't want them to explode in your luggage, right? That would be a nightmare. But the pencils, of course, won't. And you could always take a pan set because it would dry. So, yeah, that sounds fun. Okay. Pictures. We want lots of pictures. All right. Let's see. So this guy is going to get fussy cut. I did have a request to do a how-to on fussy cutting, so that'll be coming up. But my number one tip on fussy cutting is to know whether you're going to go right on the line or if you're going to do a little border, first of all. And second of all, you're always moving the paper, not your hand with the scissors. I have more tips, but those will be in the video. And honestly, I don't mind fussy cutting. I used to do it a lot before we had dyes. Believe it or not, that was only like 12 years ago. We did not have dyes for things. We just had to cut them out. So we got kind of used to it. Oh, okay. Well, Paula's old hat at New York, so I'm not telling her anything she doesn't already know. The Rockettes. Yes, we've seen the Rockettes too. That was nice. Jimmy Fallon is taping with a live audience. Actually, a lot of places are taping with live audiences too. So if you ever had a hankering for getting on a TV show to be in the audience, that's always something worth looking into as well. When my husband and I went, we did Good Morning America, which was interesting. You spend a lot more time there than you think you're going to. Okay, so I'm going to just clip off the corners on these so it's not as square. I did that on my sample and I kind of liked the look. Gives it just a little more whimsy. All right, so we've got all of our pieces. This little snail, he just whips up quick. Okay, so this guy here, I'm going to go ahead and assemble. When you're assembling your envelope, and we don't need to do any other die cutting or anything, I'm going to just put a little bit of glue right on the edges here, because if I put glue in the center, then my little Happy Mail note is not going to go in. So just the tiniest bit of glue. Yeah, so I really love this look. And the reason why I spent the time doing that is because I really wanted it to melt into the swirl behind it. Really wanted it to look cohesive. Okay, so I've got my cute little finished envelope, and I can put my letter in there. Make sure that works. All right. Then my flap will fold down on top of that. So secret messages are all ready to go. Now, Mr. Snail is going to go right here. And you see how his little shell is kind of overlapping the flap? That's exactly what you want, because you want it to kind of hold the flap closed. So you don't want it to go up like too high where it's hard to get that open. You can just kind of eyeball on it and say, oh, where does he need to go? So we're just going to put some glue on the bottom of the snail. Okay. Such small elements today. Okay, so like literally just a little dab. You see that little dab right there? Keeping it off of the shell. And I'm going to pop him right on and just kind of hold for a second. Well, yeah, Nancy. So I could have, okay, this is what I could have done. I could have done the flowers on black cardstock and then painted them with gouache to get the color on them. Yes. But then I would have had to emboss them to make sure that I saw the black lines in between. That's definitely another way to do that. All right, so here is our circle, and it's actually still not completely dry. So let me just zap this for a second. So if that wasn't completely dry, I wouldn't have been able to glue stuff down on it very successfully. All right. There we go. All right, so this is slightly smaller than my card base. My card base is not folded well. There we go. Yeah, so there's a lot of ways you could have tackled the flowers. It's just it would have been pulling out a different medium for sure to color them with. So, Sue, I don't know if you can tell, but you see how much lighter this got from after drying. It is not nearly as harsh of a black as it was originally. All right, so again, I'm not worried about the hole there. So see, look at that, became a lighter black, right? So what I'm going to do, you can do this with press and seal. You can do this with just some temporary low tack tape, however. So I really like the layout that I came up with here. So I have 5 elements, right? That was on purpose because you want to have an uneven number of elements. But we don't want these flowers to get too lost. We've got 3 envelope elements, kind of following the original because I like the way that it looks. When you're putting like these elements together, I don't want them to be like on the same angle, because that looks too contrived. So it's better to kind of keep one at one angle and then bring like the other one kind of straight across, or just at a slightly different bend if you want them to be angled the same direction but not exactly the same. All right, so then this guy can go like so. Now see, I don't want to cover up the words either. So that's another thing to keep in mind as you're setting these up. And then of course this one needs to be layered on top so you can get into it. So that's a pretty nice little grouping there. Like I said, again, you can use press and seal, you can use just some low tack tape. I tend to use whatever I have currently in front of me, and the low tack tape was the closest. So now I can pick this whole thing up and do some gluing on the back side. And then just go ahead and place it right back down. There we go. Press for a minute just to give it a nice firm attachment. And then you can pull up these guys. If you need to add any little glue behind, you can do that too. Although usually that ends up being just about enough. Unless you're really like trying to get something to sit down flat. That should be good. And there we go. That's it. Then of course you need to test out your little note here. You could put any little note in here. You could just write up a little letter and put it inside and be, you know, funny. Isn't this so meta? There's a letter and a letter and blah, blah, blah. But it's totally cute. So there you go. Another fun little adorable interactive card. Right behind this now. There you go. If you want to add sequins on here, you can do that too. I like it without. Nice and plain that way. It brings kind of all the black together, but if you want a little bit of sparkle, you can add a few little golden sequins. It would look really adorable. And that's it. So there you go, guys. It's a totally fun card. So, Paula, get out your stamp set. Work on one of these projects. I hope to see some exciting ideas from you as you start working with this stamp set. Here we go. I'll just pop one of these out. Come up with some fun ideas and do some really neat things. Oh, Cece has thrown down the gauntlet. She says her brain is working as usual. So Cece does not have the stamp set. She's going to come up with some cute little idea that goes along with this concept. This one actually, Cece, I think is easier than last week's because you don't have to do the little interactive pull idea. You've already got the envelope down. So how can you use that envelope in a nice little floral arrangement to create a fun little interactive something, something? I know you're going to come up with a great idea. So thank you guys so much for stopping in today. Remember, if you liked today's video, do give it a thumbs up so that way YouTube knows to serve you up more content just like this. I will be back on Tuesday with another technique for you, and then we'll be right back here on Thursday for our final running with scissors for the month with the mail drop stamp set. So our final interactive project until for the month with this stamp set, and then we'll go into some sparkle and shine in November. So I will see you guys next week. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and you get some time to craft. I will see you soon, and until then, happy crafting.